Hey, good morning. Welcome to Hobby Evolution, episode 1213. I'm rushed this morning. I feel rushed. I didn't sleep in. I did lay in bed a little longer, but a normal time. Just doing other things. It's card show week, which even with only 2 ballrooms this month, one less ballroom, 40 less tables for this show will return to the 3 ballroom setup with 175 tables for July, August, and probably the rest of the year. So just took a cancellation this morning, reaching out, getting those tables filled. So taking some questions. So always busy. Friday has become a extremely busy day ahead of the Madison Card Show. So, and a lot of shipping to do. And I'm getting some stuff, some cards ready here as we're going to play Name That Player. So there we go. I think we have 14 cards. We're going to do a mix of vintage and modern. Going to have some fun with that today. Vintage, man. I've been praising the vintage this week. The estate sale was massive success, continues to be a success. I had such great sales day. Today's Friday, Thursday. Wednesday was just phenomenal sales day. There's my eBay store, 99centcards.com. Go check it out for yourself. See what's moving, see what's listed. Save 25% off when you buy 7 or more at regular price. I had such a phenomenal sales day Wednesday that yesterday seemed like a real dud. I'm like, my God, did eBay just like turn my store off? That's what it felt like. But always look at the numbers. Sometimes I think we just like, oh, and this happens to me all the time. Like sometimes I don't pay attention to the numbers. And then when I look at the numbers, it's like, oh shit. And yesterday was like a phenomenal day normally, but it just paled in comparison to Wednesday because it just was, 6, no, not quite 6, but 4 to 5x of my average. So yesterday was still about 2 to 3x. So still a phenomenal day and off to a nice start already this morning. So the vintage has been flying. My my reseller lots have been moving. So I've been spending some time putting those together. It is time consuming putting those together. And it's like, I don't know. It's one of those things. It's a nice sale, but it's takes a long time to list. Like I could list, there's 1,300 cards. I could list those 1,300 cards in about the same amount of time that it takes me, maybe a little longer because it's such a random hodgepodge, but to curate those boxes. Because they still have to be, I try not to put too many duplicates in there. Not too much junk, not too much great stuff. I want to have, it's mainly filler, but it's all stuff that's in my quarter boxes and dime boxes. So, and it, of course, it has been cherry picked. But I put in some jersey cards, and I think each box, I don't advertise it because I don't want it to be a mystery box. But I think most boxes have had either an autograph or a jersey relic. Just, I didn't plan on it, but it's like, I've got some crap laying around. And it's not, you're not going to pull a Jackson Holiday, probably anything. There's no Ohtani. Well, actually there was an Ohtani in one of the boxes that I made yesterday because I happened to go through my Wednesday night haul of modern stuff. And so I'm just going through. I'm like, I'll throw an Ohtani in there because I ended up counting. There were about in the sorted Ohtani there was about 100. So that's a nice little bonus. So always look at the numbers. Speaking of numbers, so this is kind of goes along with. I was watching the Dollar Box and Replay with Charlie and Adam. I always watch that. Sometimes I'll pop in on Wednesday night during the live, but usually I'm by 8, 9 o'clock. I'm just kind of couching it. So I listened to it in replay on Thursdays, they were talking about, Willie Mays kind of had the same discussion that we talked about, greatest living players. And Charlie had mentioned that on the show and talking about some of the names that were brought up. And Charlie brought up like Barry Bonds and comparing Barry Bonds to Mark McGwire. And I'm like, on the surface, I'm like, no, they're like nowhere close in terms of greatest all-time players. So I'm like, but I got to look at the numbers. And I'm thinking, because I know Barry Bonds was a much better defender. And I know he was a much better stolen base guy. I didn't realize Mark McGwire only stole in his entire career 12 stolen bases. Some people may think, wow, I'm surprised he stole that many. But the numbers are just night and day. If you go by WAR, what is it good for? A lot of people don't like WAR, but just using WAR, Barry Bonds, 100 more WAR than Mark McGwire. 100. It's like exactly 160. I think Barry Bonds was 162.8 career WAR, and McGwire's like 62. Bonds, even though McGwire hit a lot of home runs, 500 and some, Bonds obviously has the record. No asterisk on that. Bonds has the 700 and some. Stolen bases, Bonds had like 500 stolen bases to 12. Career average was like 30 points higher for Bonds. And then just like from a defending standpoint, I think Bonds won like 8 gold gloves or something, 12 silver sluggers, 7-time MVP. So I had to check the numbers. And sometimes we just have to look at the numbers. And when I looked at my eBay sales, it's like, man, I had such a shitty day yesterday. But I didn't. It was disappointing compared to the previous day, which was like, oh my God, I can't believe. And I think that's just human behavior. What have you done for me lately? It's like on a normal day, it'd be like, oh, this is awesome. But after a day where it's been 10 times awesome, man, this sucks. Where's all my sales? So got to keep it in perspective. Look at that graph. Okay, here's the last 30 days. Here's the normal. Here's the average. And here's yesterday. Okay, it didn't suck. Yesterday didn't suck. Check out my eBay store, 99centcards.com. 7 or more items at regular price. You'll save 25% off at checkout. I went through, added some vintage basketball yesterday, 71, 72 tops and 72, 73. And they're in really nice. I actually did check over condition. Normally I don't, because condition is typically like, in the bulk that I get. Typically, this is an exception where there's a lot of really sharp vintage in this collection that I got. So I went through and pulled basically if it was creased or corner dings, those are going into future quarter boxes when I start doing quarter boxes again. I won't be set up at a card show as a dealer until August. But just based on my schedule over the next 2 months, I don't know if I'll bring back the quarter boxes for those shows. I might still be building them. So I will have dollar boxes for sure, and probably try to keep going through those dime boxes. But I have been selling those flat rate boxes on eBay. I think I sold like 3 or 4 more yesterday. So I'm going through those dime boxes pretty quickly. Those retired quarter boxes that have become dime boxes. So did get some I think I added some 74 baseball, which are in nice shape as well. And I don't know. The great thing about vintage is using Card Dealer Pro, it flies through and you don't have to like do any changes. It's just like, unless it's a league leader card or there's more than one player on the card, you have to go into and adjust a couple things. But if it's just the regular cards, I can do, 105 minutes. So I can fly through there. But it's kind of, my attention span is pretty much focused on tomorrow's card show. I've got to get I've got to get all the stuff. I still have my cards that I picked up Wednesday. Most of those are still in my car. I got to get those down here so I can get my tables, the tables that I take to the show. I'll do that tonight. I'll have to go into the hotel this afternoon to put the name tags down, make sure all the tables, which I'm less concerned because it's been perfect the last few months, knock on wood. But I don't have the third room, which the third room I have to completely set up on my own. So that's a blank slate each month. When the State Street Ballroom is open, I have to go in. I bring in my 20 or so tables and then have to mark out, put out the chairs, where the table spots are going to go for the dealers that bring their own tables to fill that room. So fortunately, I don't have to do that. It's just the 2 ballrooms this month, upstairs Capitol Ballroom and the mezzanine, and then downstairs in the Williamson Ballroom. So we'll have 135 tables tomorrow, free admission, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. And so come see us. Come see us. Super Sexy Cardboard, what's going on? He just says good morning. Terry Smith says hi. Terry Smith from Anawan? I went to high school with a Terry Smith. That's the first Terry Smith I think of. And he's going to be like, no, Terry Smith from Kokomo. Terry Smith. If that's the Terry Smith I'm thinking of from Anawan, we had some wild parties back in the day. Let me tell you. I'll never forget one Terry Smith story. So we were in college. And correct. Terry, what's up? So we were at one of Terry's parties in Kiwani. And me and my buddy Chuck drank this bottle of Southern Comfort and Mountain Dew. We were on a SoCo and Mountain Dew kick. And was going to school at Blackhawk. And the next morning I had like an 8 o'clock or a 9 o'clock English class. That's the worst on a hangover. And I drank so much SoCo and Mountain Dew. This, the guy sitting in front of me, what the hell? We had a bunch of classes together. He went to Rova High School. The hell was it? Matt. Matt was his name. So Matt's in front of me. He turns around. He's like, my God. He's like, are you drinking? And I'm like, no. And I remember I brushed my teeth like 3 times because I knew like, oh. Zach says he can't even smell SoCo without wanting to vomit. Bad experience. This wasn't a bad experience, but I don't think I drank SoCo again after that point. I went back to beer. But yeah, Terry, I'll drink to that. That's freaking awesome. That is freaking awesome. So what else is going on? Good news with Biscuit. Biscuit had her cardiologist appointment yesterday at the vet's office. And best news that we could get in our situation. We've got her breathing is better. Her heart rate is down. So we're going to stick to the medication we're on. And she's got 12 to 18 months. She is in heart failure. So it's terminal, which we kind of knew that was going to be the news. But 12 to 18 months was very relieving. Over the weekend, I didn't think she would last this week. Saturday, I thought it was going to be dire. Monday, when we went to the vet, it was a couple months to a year. And now after her appointment yesterday, it's 12 to 18 months. So that's, the best news that we could get. Obviously it's not great news, but it's not bad news. It's okay. This is better than expected in my eyes. So my wife and I had some discussions. We're supposed to be going to Switzerland in a couple weeks, a week and a half, in fact, 9-10 days. We had thought about postponing our trip because my mom is coming up for a week. To my mom and her friend are house sitting, and for a week, and then they'll go home, and then my mother-in-law and her friend will come up and stay with Biscuit for another week. Normally, Biscuit would go to my mother-in-law's house. She only lives a few miles away. But in this situation, we want to keep Biscuit as comfortable as possible, and to remove her from her place in this condition is not, we don't want to do that to her. So the notorious MIL will come over and stay with Biscuit. So, we were concerned, like, okay, like, what if, like, the worst situation, like, we're in Europe, and not only that are we away, but one of our parents are in control of a dog passing, if somebody else's dog, like, that would be the worst. Like, I cannot imagine dog sitting and having the dog, even though the condition, even though it's it still would be a horrible situation. So we feel she's, and she's been far improved. I talked to the vet yesterday. When I dropped her off, my question was, can we still go for walks? We went for a walk, whatever day it was, Wednesday, I think. And Biscuit wanted to go for a longer walk. And I asked the vet, I'm like, in her state with her heart, like, can we go for walks? Can we go for a normal walk? Does it have to be short? Like, what's the situation here? And she said, you can do normal walks and just keep an eye on her. If she gets tired and wants to stop, just pick her up, take her home. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's good. So we feel she's well enough, and she's been perky. She's been sassy. She had the zoomies yesterday. She's back to, like, getting upset because we're forcing her to eat. Good God, can you imagine? The poor dog. Which is normal, by the way. I know that sounds silly, but she hates eating. So we're back to normal. So good news in my opinion on Biscuit. So that's good. Madison Card Show tomorrow, eBay store 99centcards.com. It's a free for all Friday. We're going to talk about do the name that player. Jesus, Bo, think. Name that player. I've got a nice mix of some vintage baseball. I think there's a couple of vintage basketball, some modern stuff. So we'll play Name That Player. We missed it. Why? Oh, we missed it last week. It was good. We were at the estate sale last week. So that was, I'm glad we missed the free for all Friday last Friday. We did go live. I did go live from outside the estate sale. Was there anything else I want? Oh, I didn't mention this the other day. I'll give you a gardening update because I have been tending my garden every day. My garden's doing really well. I wanted to practice. So we are, and I think I may have mentioned this. My wife gets a box from Canva earlier this week, and I was waiting on a couple things. By the way, when I live purchased my eBay bubble mailers, I'm like, how fast these will probably be here Friday. They were here Thursday. Wait, today's Friday. Yesterday, Thursday. They were delivered Thursday, and they may have came on Wednesday, but it was a holiday. So I think I ordered those Monday morning, which I ran out of, which is a good sign, which I went through all of my bubble mailers and had to just in time order that stuff. So made it just in time to continue my shipping yesterday. So I was waiting on a couple things this week, and something from Canva came. And I didn't know where it was from, but I'm like, is that for you or for me? And she's like, well, it's actually kind of for both of us. And I'm like, and she said, so, and she opens it up, and it's her logo for her real estate company. And she's like, so these are going to go on your pickle jars. And I'm like, really? You're branding my pickles? And I'm like, maybe we should do. So we actually brainstormed. We're going to, not only will like she's going to gift them out. Oh, which by the way, I have another, speaking of triggering so many thoughts. The thing when I go live now without having had any coffee is I can't remember shit. So, but starting to come. So that's what she said. So I'm like, I should put a label like name my pickle. So we were brainstorming ideas. I think my wife had Googled a few and they were like, catchy pickle names. And so, a few of them like, okay, nothing stuck. One name this did not come from Google. This was her own idea. When she said it, it was like, But then the more I repeated it in my head, I'm like, I really like that. And the more I really like that. Not your average dill. And at first, weed man's in the house, spraying the yard. Not your average dill. And I'm like, at first it's like, not your average. I kind of like it. So my thought was, because a lot of the names she was coming up with were like dill related, but not all of my pickles are dill pickles. In fact, I did a practice batch the other night of bread and butter. I love bread and butter pickles, but there's no dill in bread and butter pickles. My spicy jalapeno pickles, I put I think a little bit of dill in there, but it's like, I kind of wanted it to, if I have a name for my pickles, I kind of want to be like New Glarus, where New Glarus is the name, but you're really after the flavor, like bread and butter pickles, but like a fun name for the bread and butter, a fun name for the spicy, a fun name for the dill. And there's where you have your funny dill. Okay, that's the flavor under the banner of not your average dill. But again, it's like, okay, not your average dill, but it's kind of, I don't know. I kind of like it. So I did a practice batch of bread and butter pickles. We'll see. I try different recipes every year, see which ones stick. So sometimes I forget to write it down or bookmark it. So we'll see how this goes. My garden is doing well. The rabbits love it. One of the bunnies is taken to eating the lettuce off the celery, which is okay because I don't eat, I'm going to throw it away anyway. So have at it. Stay away from my lettuce, which they love the lettuce. So I think I've given up and the rabbits can just have their way with my romaine lettuce. And I'm just not going to have any garden fresh lettuce this year. Tomatoes are doing really well. I've been watching a lot of videos on like pruning, and this is how you grow the biggest bounty of tomatoes and cucumbers. Cucumbers are doing amazing. Oh, you can see Weed Man in the mirror back there. So yeah, garden is going really well. What's going on? George is in the house. What's happening, George? Good evening to you. Steel Cards is here. Good morning. He's having a great week of sales. And it's kind of, I know why I'm having a great week of sales, but it's been kind of slow leading up to this week. And I'm speaking for my own sales. And again, I know why my sales have peaked. I'm selling a lot of the vintage that I picked up last week. And I think a lot of that vintage has drawn more traffic to my store. Just looking at my impressions way up over where they were at. They were just like dropping. And there you go. That's, how do you increase your traffic? How do you increase your sales? Boom. There it is. Put good inventory in. That's the key to sales success. It's pretty simple. Good stuff, good prices. And all of a sudden, boom. That's the magic key. It's pretty simple. And we don't always follow that rule, myself included. But that's ultimately the key to good sales. Jay Grimes, good morning. Victor's in the house. What's up? Good morning. Cubs didn't lose last night. We maintained a 2-game win streak. Going to try to go for 3 today. Ethan Roberts last night, AAA Iowa. 1 2/3. Perfect baseball on the mound. Through 1 2/3 innings, 3 strikeouts, no walks, no hits. I think he's up to like 12 innings, maybe 13 innings. Hasn't allowed an earned run at AAA, so we will see Ethan at Wrigley Field soon. Which selfishly, I don't want it to come in the next couple of weeks because I want to be there for his return to Chicago. But I just don't know if the timing, if he gets called up in the next week, what's the Cubs schedule? Because I could probably swing a trip because I'll be down there anyway. Monday and Tuesday. Club 400 1984 Cubs reunion is Tuesday night. I'll be down Monday afternoon helping out down there. Oh, we got the Mets. Where's Mark Marinello at? We got the Mets this weekend. Let's see. June. We've got the Mets. So Mets, and then we're on the So yeah, if Ethan doesn't get called up this weekend, I won't be able to see him until the end of July. Because let's see. Well, we've got the so we get back just in time for the All-Star break. So that's when we return, just in time for the All-Star break. So, and then the Cubs are back home July 19th, 20th, and 21st against the Diamondbacks, and then against the Brewers. So, and July 20th is the Madison Card Show. So basically the first 3 weeks of July, I'm out of commission in terms of getting to Wrigley, either because I'm out of the country or I've got the Madison Card Show. So hopefully we'll get there. Hopefully maybe they see, hey, Ethan, 1 2/3 perfect. We'll call him up today. David's in the house. Good morning. Mr. Archer, what's happening? George in the house. I noticed that you named this episode after a banger from Silverchair on the Frog Stomp album, Tomorrow. Silverchair. Love Silverchair. In fact, my story earlier that I told about Southern Comfort and Mountain Dew with my buddy Chuck turned me on to Silverchair in high school. He was a huge Silverchair fan. And initially I was like kind of, I poo-poo on Silverchair, but the more I listened to it, the more I appreciated it. And now I think there's a mix of I love the music, but also that mix of nostalgia is in there as well. It takes me back to those high school days. But yeah, I love Frog Stomp. Great album. Silverchair. Love them. Philly Joe, what's up? Happy FFA Friday. See, that means that when I first read that, I'm like, FFA, is it Drive Your Tractor to School Day? We had that growing up. I bet Philly Joe didn't. You probably didn't drive your tractors to school in Philly, but we did. I didn't. I was a townie. What movie? Boys in the Hood was on last weekend. And I don't know if it must have came on after something we were watching. And we just kept watching it. And I'm like, I think this is Boys in the Hood, which was my favorite movie when it came out. And I told my wife this. And see, we've been together 10 years, and she's still learning something new about me. She's like, Boys in the Hood was your favorite movie? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, a white farm boy from the middle of nowhere and Boys in the Hood was I'm like, I wasn't a farm boy. I was a townie. I was in a town with no stoplights and a cornfield in my backyard. Yes, Boys in the Hood was my favorite movie. Jody, good morning. Sheena's here. What's up? Sheena will be in the house tomorrow. The house meaning the Sheraton Hotel on John Nolen Drive. Right as you walk up the steps into the mezzanine, that is Sheena. Stop by and buy some cards tomorrow at the Madison Card Show. George says, FFA was a fun organization to be in for us small towners. Hey, I was an FFA kid. Bo and I were at the same national convention back in the day. Kansas City, the 69th, which is easy to remember. The 69th annual national convention in Kansas City. And I've shared this story before. We stayed in like some no-tell motel. Mr. Tates was our, rest in peace, Mr. Tates. Mr. Tates was our ag advisor. And we went as usually the freshmen. It was kind of like reverse from like normally it's like seniority goes first. But in FFA at Anawan, freshmen got to go to the national convention. I don't know if that was like, George, I think you might be the same age. I don't know if you were a freshman or not. But I was a freshman. So Chuck, my buddy Chuck, Silverchair, SoCo, he was there. My buddy Scott, who was best man at my wedding. Who else went? Darren, Jay, Jeremy, and that might have been it. There's like, I think 7 of us. And we had to this is something that never would happen today. Like in today's society, this is like, no, you can't do that. So we had 2 rooms, even though it was all guys. We had 2 rooms. Mr. Tates stayed with 2 students. Like, you can't do that. You could in 1995 or 6. What year was it? 96, 95? Is 96. But you can't do that today. Who drew the, I think Jay and Darren. There were 7 of it. So how did that work out? Like if there were 8 of us total, the math ain't mathin'. Who slept with Mr. Tate? He must have taken the floor. So I think Jeremy, Jay, and Darren were in Mr. Tate's room. And then it was me, Scott, Chuck, and Chad? Who was the 4th in our room? Me, Chuck, Scott, maybe Chad. I can't remember who else went. But I'll never forget, we had met these girls, which is what you do at the FFA convention. We'd met these girls, and they were staying like on the other side of the hotel. And I think it was a motel because the doors were on the outside. Is that the difference? I think motels, we were right on the interstate, Kansas City. I think we were on the Kansas side. And curfew was like 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. Of course, you're 14 or however old you are at freshman in high school. We were in these girls' room. And we get back at like 12:30. We like crushed the curfew, and I'm in the at the sink, and the sink was, you have your 2 beds, you have the door, of course the beds, basically any motel room, and then straight back from the door was the sink and the mirror, and I'm brushing my teeth, and Mr. Tates and open the door, and I'm brushing my teeth, and I look in the mirror, and which looks straight back at the door. Somebody opens the door. Mr. Tate's standing. Again, remember, this is outside, interstate, all the traffic right there. He is standing in his tighty whities and a wife beater. You boys, you know it's Kurt, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, I literally spit toothpaste out onto the mirror, and something you'll never forget. And unfortunately, kids today will never learn, because they won't be able to. You can't. Teachers and kids can't stay in the same hotel room. I wonder when that became I wonder what year that changed. Like, okay, you got to get your own. Teachers, you got to get your own. You can't stay in the same hotel room as high school students. It just doesn't fly today. It did in the 90s, not today. James says your boxes are cherry picked. Damn. Cherry picked boxes. Lewis in the house. Good morning. Zach is here. He says Bonds hit a home run against Satchel Paige. McGuire never did that. There you go. I really enjoyed, so Zach's referencing last night's game at Rickwood Field down in Birmingham. It was great. I wasn't paying too much attention. A lot of the stuff I just saw on clips on Twitter. I did have the game on a little bit. I was cleaning up the rec room. I had from the vintage sorting. I just had an absolute mess. Just trying to get that cleaned up. Now I have an absolute mess in here. Try to push it all into the other room, and then I'll have a giant mess in that room. Ryan, good morning. Turkey Cards is here. What's happening? Good morning to you. James says, going to be hotter than hell tomorrow. I haven't even looked at the temperature. Hopefully it is. Which means, by the way, if you're coming to the Madison Card Show tomorrow, let's see. It's not going to be too bad. It's going to rain. That's what we want. We want rain tomorrow. We don't want 80 and sunny because then people won't come to the show. Who wants, if you're just casually into cards, who wants to spend a day inside a hotel with a bunch of other dudes looking at cardboard when it's 80 and sunny outside? Me. I would. 82 and rain tomorrow. We'll take it. So, by the way, if it's hot at the Sheraton, it usually means it's going to be cold in those rooms. If it's cold outside, it's probably going to be hotter than hell inside the Sheraton. So prepare. Tracy says, can't wait to go through my box I got from you. I'll be pulling any and all Royals. And so if you do purchase those, so I do curate those just to make sure I know what I'm putting in there, because I don't want it to be all, just like, oh, this sucks. So I do curate them a little bit, and I'll put more Royals in there than I normally would. Peter, happy Friday. Holmes in the house. What's going on? Good morning. Gundy is here. What's up? Good morning. Zach says he can't. Oh, we talked about that. The old SoCo incident. Kyle, good morning. Merle's in the house. It's a rainy Friday in Minnesota. It looks like it's going to rain here. We've got cloudy sky. Actually, it's not cloudy. It's just overcast. John Myers says his first shot ever was SoCo out of a Dixie cup. Oh, yeah. I don't remember my first shot. It was probably something, well, if it was my first shot, it could have been anything. I don't remember my first shot. Hell, it could have been SoCo. I'm sure it was vodka. I'm sure my first shot would have been vodka. Merle says, let's go biscuit. Yes. Zach says, better tell your mother-in-law and her man meat fella that the Thompson bedroom is off limits while you were overseas. That's disgusting. Let's see. Where are we at? Low Roller says something. There you go. Zach says, I'm with LRS on that one. It's science. Good morning, Offbeat All-Stars. Brian's here. Cooter's in the house. Good morning. What is your biggest learning from the estate collection? I've learned a lot. And I try to be retrospective. Is that the right term I'm looking for? I try to be retrospective when it comes to new experiences and purchases. So I think on the surface, number one is, wow, vintage really it's more, vintage is more liquid than I expected in terms of Hall of Fame, superstar type. Commons are still going to common. It's not going to really move the needle. I'm going to get set builders, but the cream of the crop flies. So that's one thing that I didn't realize, because I dabble in the shallow end of the card pool with low end stuff. So, usually when I'm dealing with vintage previously, it's been commons and beaters, which don't move, not liquid. Commons, even if they're in great condition, not a fast mover until you get a set builder come along. Vintage is very condition sensitive. So even if you have a, top rookie, if it's creased or corners are beat up, it's just not going to move. And obviously it's going to sell for a fraction, which that's just how that goes. So I think that's what I realized is the liquidity is much better than I expected. Regarding estate sales, I'm going to be a little more proactive when it comes to estate sales. Now I have one under my belt. Talk about beginner's luck on that. I don't expect to ever find anything like this again, but you don't know if you don't try. So I am going to keep an eye out on estate sales now that I know kind of how estate sales work. I've always talked about taking Fridays off. What am I going to take Fridays off to go work at a fine source at estate sales? But, typically estate sales start on Thursdays and Fridays. That's a good time to, take a morning. I'm not going to travel hours and hours away unless it seems like too good to be true type of deal. But, in my area within an hour, maybe 2 hours, I'll take off on a Thursday or Friday. In the future, if it seems worthwhile. So I think those are some of my, those are some of the things I've learned. Two of them, I think those are two of the biggest things. Because I really have ignored estate sales, auctions, garage sales, which can be great ways when you're dealing with low end stuff like me. Volume and low end can be great ways to source at fractions. Usually where I'm sourcing from dealers, and it's for the most part, it's been pretty cherry picked. And so I don't have to, in some instances, don't really deal with that. Brian says, Bo got a Walter Payton rookie for $1 and almost forgot about it. Oh, I didn't forget about the Walter Payton rookie. No, I didn't. In fact, I've got it behind me, getting ready to be submitted to PSA. I am subbing the Peyton. I am subbing the Dr. J. And then possibly a Gary Carter, George Brett, those rookies from 75, and then possibly the 74 Nolan Ryan. So those are the ones I picked out to sub or possibly sub. Merle says, should have had free for all from the road outside the estate sale. I could have, because I always have cards in my car. So we could have done that, but it just wouldn't have been, because I was holding the phone with my left hand. And so it would just not have been, I don't have like a tripod in my car for my phone. So, wouldn't have been able to do it. Sneakers, apparel, and more. What's up? Coming out tomorrow. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a good show. Merle says, you don't need to have superpowers to fly. You can get on a plane. There you go. Good morning, Uncle Rich. Neil says, good morning. Today is my birthday. Pretty depressing. Well, that's sad. Shouldn't be depressing. Happy birthday. Zach says, good luck with the inspection today for Uncle Rich. Let's see. Merle says, Bo's cut up pickle. Delicious. That's actually, I think that was the first thing my wife mentioned. She's like, delicious pickles. She's like, but it's spelled dill. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's clever. So I think that was actually the first thing my wife had mentioned. So, I think sorry, Zach. Merle says, can't use not your average dill on bread and butter slices. So that's so not your average dill would be the name of the company. And then bread and butter would be the type. So because I make several different flavors. Merle says, how many other people thought he said Wee Man is here? Now he was a pretty big dude. He wasn't a little guy. He was a pretty big dude. Weed Man. So you recommend using vintage listings as clickbait. Got it. Well, no. I mean, if you want to sell cards, high, good vintage, it's going to move. And there's a trickle effect. Just like if you list, if you have a whole bunch of hot prospects, new product is essentially clickbait. It's not, but in that term, I guess. When you rip and flip a new case, you've got so much traffic coming in for that new product that you see a trickle effect into other sectors of your store. Victor is going to be there for Sunday's game. Sandberg statue bobblehead. Very nice. Orlando's in the house. Good morning. Let's see. Uncle Rich says, I was stuck yesterday for a few minutes while my tires were being put on watching Live with Kelly and Mark. Kelly was saying she had never tried Mountain Dew in her life. Had to listen to about 3 minutes of Dew talk. Mountain Dew is disgusting. I loved Mountain Dew when I was a kid. I don't know when it was. And then when I started in radio, Mountain Dew was like waking up at 4 a.m. It was a necessity. And then I discovered coffee. And then I went through some phases early on in my radio career in my early 20s where it was like, I'm coffee, I'm on Mountain Dew. Then I was on cappuccino. Then I went back to coffee. Then I stuck with coffee. And then I tried Mountain Dew, I don't know, a few years ago. It's like, oh. And I remember my dad always, I would drink Mountain Dew. Back in the 90s, we had Big Slams. Remember that? No wonder I'm fat. They had Big Slams, 1 liter. And we would just chug a Big Slam, eat fucking sugar. Oh, Big Slams. Big Slams of Mountain Dew. And my dad's like, how can you drink that shit? I'm like, oh, it's so good, Dad. You're dumb. And now it tastes like shit. Dad was right. Dad was right. Mountain Dew tastes like shit. Philly Joe, I worked on a tractor farm outside of Philly when I was little. Yes, old farmer. Hey, okay. Neighbor rummage sale today. Will be interesting to see if I can sell some cards. I hope that 70s show isn't watching. He's going to scold you for selling cards at your rummage sale. Christian says, we also had a drive your tractor to school day. See? Yeah, there you go. George says, I was a sophomore, but we were there competing since we had won the Mississippi Dairy Judging Contest. So we competed at national. Woo, George. Dairy judging. Oh, my God. Dairy judging. Horse judging. I fucking hated all that. But it was the sales competition. I was not into the horse judging, the dairy judging, the soil judging. I was not into any of that stuff, but did really well in ag business. And so Mr. Tate's always gave me shit my senior year. I was in ag machinery and ag business, 2 classes in the semester. And ag machinery, not good. I couldn't build shit. Surprised? Shouldn't be. And he would give me, he's like, in 30 years of teaching, I think you're the only student I've ever had that's acing one of my classes and failing another. I was able to get my ag machinery grade up. And another claim to fame with Mr. Tate's was in ag business management, we had sales competition. So I went into the regional sales competition, got first place. And then, so that was, I think the regional was just like our county, and then district, or it might've been vice versa, district and then regional, but I advanced to the next level and got first place. And that was I think there were 5 or 8 districts in the state of Illinois, and I won first place in that. So I advanced to the state competition, and the state competition was on the same day as prom. So I skipped the competition and went to prom instead. So, and for winning, for advancing to state, you get, so in our ag, we had points. We had this big board in the back of the ag classroom. And it was like a points board. And like each, you had all these activities. Like we would fix sidewalks in the town, and we would volunteer at whatever. There was a big farm auction in our small town that, we would sell like pork chop sandwiches. And so you get points for doing all of these things. And I didn't like help with anything, because most of it you had to do, it was outside of school hours. It's like, this is my time, man. So I got how many ever points. Actually, no, I think I got 4 points for my sales stuff. And, but you automatically get a steak dinner. At the end of the year, you go out to a steakhouse and you get a steak dinner if you have a certain amount of points, or if you qualified for a state competition. So I think you had to have like 150 points to get a steak dinner. But I got a steak dinner because I qualified for state in the sales competition. And I only had like 4 points. Like that was the only points I got all year. I didn't volunteer for anything. And he said, in my 30 years of teaching, nobody has even come close to only 4 points in getting a steak dinner. And I'm like, I was pretty proud of that. You've got to find, and I think you find your way in business by not cutting corners, but just finding ways to get around doing a lot of work. And what do I do now? A lot of work listing 99-cent baseball cards. It's kind of like the opposite of what I learned growing up. But that was a damn good steak. Damn good steak. Nick's in the house. What's going on? Examine Baseball says, what did y'all think of Reggie Jackson's narrative on playing in Birmingham during last night's broadcast? Wow. So Reggie Jackson talked about playing in Birmingham and the outward racial bullshit that he had to endure as a player, and dropped the N-word, a few times based on his experiences, and that can't stay here, can't eat here. And but what was refreshing about that was how his players and managers stood up for him. And if a restaurant owner wouldn't allow him to eat there, nobody ate there. If they wouldn't allow him to stay there, none of them stayed there. They went to a place that would take them in. But we know what they went through. We've read about it. We've heard about it. But just to hear those, sometimes I think it's important for us to hear those recollections, just to realize how shitty the world was, America was in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, in some instances still today. It still sucks. So very eye-opening and sad. George says, we stayed at the Marriott and broke into the mini bar. Chris got drunk and pissed in Ryan's suitcase in the middle of the night. Man, I wish I was hanging out with George at the FFA National Convention. I don't have any stories like that. Cooter says the state FFA convention always meant a road trip for lunch because downtown restaurants would be locked up by blue coats. Ah, yeah, the old blue coats. Corduroy navy blue FFA jackets. James says, need to hand out deodorant to some of the old timers. George says, we had steak at the Golden Ox that trip. Stuke's in the house. Good morning. Nick says, I get good finds about once a year at estate sales for cards. Okay. Garage sales are much better. Interesting. Card hobbyist in the house. Good morning. Duke says antique stores have surprises once in a while. Found 21 box bottoms for $9. 3 were 85-86 Gretzky full panel. Sell for $65 each on eBay. That's the one. Those are one places that I do go. My mom loves antique stores. So like if I'm back home every once in a while. It's like, hey, let's go to Geneseo or let's go to Sheffield to the antique mall. And I typically don't find much, but what do I say? Always be looking. I'm not always looking. When I go, I'm looking, but I go to antique stores a few times a year. So it's not like it's a weekly trip for me. Cooter says, Scott is correct on antique stores. Picked up some crack-free 70 Kellogg's for $1 each earlier this week. So I've got to look into Kellogg's. Do I have the box? I think it's in the other room. There were a nice stack of Kellogg's. I think they were more later 70s. They weren't 70. Crack-free. I think there were probably some 70 because I do remember another guy that was when we were digging last Friday morning. He's like, there's no cracks on these. They were curled, but not cracked. There's still a small pile that I have that were left over in what I bought on Sunday. But they were later 70, like mid to late 70s. And, I think the big names had all been taken. So they're probably dollar cards now. Just based on the years and the players that are left. Charles in the house. Good morning. Max says Diet Dew is the best soda out there. So Mountain Dew is awful. I would assume Diet Dew is slightly less awful, but I haven't had Diet Dew maybe ever, because when I was younger, it's like I'm not drinking Diet Dew. But I have been now that I've been, on a diet, I guess. I don't like calling it a diet. I just hate that word. More so just kind of altering my lifestyle, because it's, it's caffeine, it's alcohol, it's processed foods. But sometimes it's like I want to have like a pop, but I don't want that. I'm trying to take sugars out. So I have been drinking some diet pop every once in a while, not like every day, but every once in a while. Ginger ale diet, sugar-free ginger ale, root beer, sugar-free root beer, stuff like that. Which, by the way, last night my blood pressure was down to the lowest it's been. 132 over 89. So it's been 7 weeks of my lifestyle change, cutting out sugar, cutting out a pot of coffee every day in place of mushroom coffee, eating fruits and vegetables, bananas, kiwis, tomatoes, taking out a lot of carbs, sugars, processed foods, an additional blood pressure medication, and it's still, I'm celebrating 133 over 89. So that was, that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because, that 175 over 113, not a good score on the blood pressure. And then so I guess your MAP, mean arterial pressure, is more important than the actual blood pressure readings, which is it's like a formula. So my MAP was down into the normal range for the first time since I started tracking regularly almost 2 months ago. 99, and I think 100 is the highest in the normal range. So I got it down into the double digits. So small victories. Troy, good morning. Cooter says John is in San Francisco. He's probably still dreaming about Steve Garvey. I bet he is, with his shirt off. George says, I was a real life Napoleon Dynamite. This milk tastes like the cow got into an onion patch. Let's see. Zach says, Porter and I have hit up some antique stores, found a few nice finds, but too many Brewers police cards in our neck of the woods. Brewers police cards coming out of my ass in these Goodwill pallets. When I get Goodwill pallets, there's always like 100 Brewers police cards and Packers police cards. Loved Reggie Jackson's Raw Talk, healthy reminder. It is. And that's exactly what I think. We need to be reminded of that real talk, those experiences that those guys went through. So history never repeats itself. Cooter says, I was at the same antique store you and I hit when you were in town. Not as fun without you. Aw, that's sweet. That was a nice surprise after a stressful week. George says, I think what he said was a lot of tough truth. Yes. I grew up in the South and I heard a lot of the stories and know places where a lot of that unfortunate and disgusting crap still happens. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I still hear a lot of, racist bullshit, various places as well. It sucks. Zach says, love cracked Kellogg's. Only way I can afford them. Zach says, haven't had one in a long time, but Diet Dew is amazing. So I'm curious, Zach, do you, if you drank Mountain Dew or drink Mountain Dew, do you like Mountain Dew? Max says, you must just not like the lemon lime flavor profile, but I think I do. I think I do. So I like Sprite. Is that lemon lime? I like Sprite. Sprite's a nice alternative if I don't want Coke or whatever. But yeah, I would say I like lemon lime. Zach says, Bo, if you embrace the word flipping, you can embrace making dietary changes. You aren't drinking Tab. Relax. Sugar-free Mountain Dew is the best, says Jody. So we're over an hour in. I guess it's time to play Name That Player. I'm disappointed that Mark Marinello is not here because I'm leading off, and I'm going to give a hint before I even show it. I'm leading off with Mark's favorite player. So let's show the scoreboard. Here we go. Max no longer has the lead. We have a tie between Max and the card hobbyist. Uncle Rich has slipped into third place. We've got Flipping Sports Guy at 22 points. Matt Like has 14. And then we have Joe, Dan, 13 each. Flawed Thinker has 11. And Harlan in double figures with 10 points. So let's get my YouTube out. Brian says, should have taken off work today. Early birds coming out of the woodwork. Oh, man. You have a garage sale? You have early birds. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Let's go to my channel. And hey, hit the like button while you're here. Subscribe to the channel. Okay, now we got the live chat. All right. Let's roll with Mark Marinello's favorite player of all time. Who is this guy? We don't have Kellogg's today, but we have Hostess. And we're going to mix it up. It's not only vintage today. It's going to be some modern. Uncle Rich knows it's Felix. Is it Milan? Felix Milan? Uncle Rich with the point. So we've got a mix, and I've got some basketball as well. We're going, it's not modern basketball next. It's older. It's not vintage. It's not vintage. It's not modern. And the card is not junk wax. All right. So Golden State Warriors. So this is a modern card, but it's not a modern player. Number 13 for the Golden State Warriors. He played in the junk wax era, and I'm not going to take off for spelling. It is Sarunas Marciulionis. I'm going to give it to Brian, Offbeat All-Stars. We're not going to take off for spelling today. Sarunas Marciulionis. Brian with the point. And he moves up. 8 points for Brian. Where are we at? All right, Brian moves up ahead of Scotty Dubs. All right, next up we are going, non-sport next. Non-sport, although it is a baseball card. All right, I got to make sure. All right. Fans of the game. He's a New York Yankees fan. Brian says he couldn't spell Marcelonis if you gave me 1,000 tries. Uncle Rick says at one point his rookie after his Hall of Fame induction was listed as a dime in the Beckett OPG. Meatloaf is correct. I think Brian got it again. Yes. Brian's on a roll. Meatloaf. Meatloaf. Back-to-back points for Brian. Where's Brian? Brian. 8 points, 9 points. Brian's got that fast internet. He's also only a few miles from me here in Madison. Got the rummage sale luck today. We got Shane Zager in the house. Shout out to Shane. All right, now we got basketball, but it's vintage. Vintage. All right. Well, I don't think I have to give any hint. Vintage Lakers. I'm going to give Max the point. I should have said I need first name. It's Kermit. It's Kermit Washington. Half of his name could be seen on the jersey. We'll give it to Max. Kermit Washington. I was going to give a hint, but then I saw the name on the front of the jersey, and I'm like, oh, I guess I don't need to give a hint. So Max takes the lead back with 45 points. I was going to say Kermit Washington punched Rudy Tomjanovich. There's a book about it written by Jeff Pearlman. Great book. Kermit Washington. Let's see. Yeah, I should have moved the card up higher. Just had his face. All right. Modern baseball. Modern baseball. Where are the Tigers fans? He's a pitcher. It is not Casey Mize. It is Max with the point. Jackson Jobe. Jackson Jobe, shades of greatness. I think he's having, I know early on. And Scotty Dubs, I think Scotty Dubs has a connection to Jackson Jobe. Let's see. Yes, Max was first. I know early on in the season he was pitching lights out in the minor leagues for the Tigers. Let's see. Where are we at? Oh, we're going back to vintage baseball. Oh, here's one of my favorites. From the 70s Cubs. Scotty worked with Jackson Jobe's aunt. There you go. So this guy was the favorite player of my favorite band's lead singer, Eddie Vedder's favorite player. It is Jose Cardinal. And I think Max was first again. He was. Max. Vintage. Is that Max's first vintage point? Jose Cardinal. Max at 40. Card Hobbyist, where are you at today? So Max at 47 points. All right. We're back to modern baseball. I guess we're baseball heavy today. Modern baseball. Who's going to be fastest? Gunnar Henderson is correct. I think Max just beat Shane. He did. Max with another point. Gunnar Henderson. Where are we at? Max. We go back to vintage baseball for the next card. All right. Vintage baseball. Oops. Vintage baseball. Minnesota Twinkies. Should be an easy one for many of you. Card Hobbyist. There he is. Bert Blyleven. Yes. Card Hobbyist. Trying to get back up there. Bert Blyleven. Where's Card Hobbyist? Card hobbyist, 45 points. All right. Brian just sold 12 packs of cards at his rummage sale. Suck it, John Keating. Let's see. Max has got to give Card Hobbyist an easy one for the internet speed. Uh-oh. Them's fighting words. Hey, we're going back to a non-sport Yankee fan. Who is this Yankee fan? Spam likely says Bert and Kermit. Now we just need a Ernie. I don't think I have an Ernie today. Dean Kane is correct. Shane Zager on the board. Shane. Dean Kane, Superman. Was he Superman? I think, or Batman. Superman, I think. Shane, and you, I think, have a point. So you're at 2. Alrighty. Shane to 2. All right. Next up, vintage. And in honor of last night's celebration down at Rickwood Field, this is a Negro Leagues player. Can you name him? Card hobbyist can. Yes, it's cool. Papa Bell. Cool Papa Bell, card hobbyist. Where are we at? Card hobbyist with the point. And we've got a 2-point difference between card hobbyist and Max at the top of the standings. All right. We've got how many left? 1, 2, 3, 4 cards left. We're going modern baseball. Where's Zach at? Zach's team. I think he can get this one. The White Sox. Andrew Vaughn is correct. Spam likely almost had it. I think Max. Yes, Max was fastest with Andrew Vaughn. All right. Max extends that lead. It's now 3 points. Max's internet's faster today. All right, next up, back to vintage baseball. Hostess. Who are the Brewers fans? This is a tough one. Might need to bring in Uncle Rich. It is not Pete Vukovich. It is not Rob Deere. It is not Caldwell. It is not Moore. Oh, Uncle Rich got it. It's Broberg. Had my mouse over it. Peter Sven Broberg. Peter Sven Broberg. All right, Uncle Rich with 28. All right, next up, vintage basketball. Okay, I'm checking to make sure his name's not on the jersey. It's another Laker. Shane says Rich was the only one getting that one. I think so. Vintage basketball. Who knows this Laker? It is not Wilt Chamberlain. It is not Baylor. It is not Wilkes. It is not Russell. It is not Charlie Scott. Let's see. It's not Thompson, nor West, nor Wilkes, nor Hawkins, nor Wilkes. Lakers. Not Jones. Hairston is correct. Happy Hairston. Happy Hairston. Uncle Rich with another point. All right. You got to have fast internet for this one because this is a gimme. Our last card's a gimme. Who's got the fastest internet? This will show who has the fastest internet. All right. Where are we at? I just want to make sure I got them all covered. All right. Fastest internet. Who's got it? Name this player. Card Hobbyist has the fastest internet. I think we knew. Max has the second fastest. It is Paul Molitor. Paul Molitor. That is how we test your internet speed. That is how we test your internet speed. So Card Hobbyist has the fastest, and Max has the second fastest. And I think that's kind of how we know. Where are we at? Card Hobbyist 47. All righty. Max says saw CH before the card. Rich says he had Molitor before I saw the card. Yep, Card Hobbyist has the fastest internet. And Card Hobbyist, I think he's in Philly. It's not even like he's in my backyard or anything. Let's see. So I have Max with 50. I don't remember Max getting a 50th point. I don't know if I did that. Oh, Card Hobbyist is in Georgia. I was way off. All righty. So did I give Max an extra point? Because I thought he was at 49. And then I just looked and I have him at 50 on the standings. Did I give Rich has Max? That's what I thought. I didn't have him at 50. Did I give him somebody else's point? Okay, Mac confirms 49. All right. So yeah, I think next week it'll be the playoff between Max and Card Hobbyist. Who can be the fastest to 50? All right. So there it is. eBay store 99centcards.com, 7 or more regular price. You'll save 25% off at checkout. Some great vintage, added 71-72 basketball and 72-73 basketball. And I think I added 74 baseball, or did I not add that? Let me check. AAO. Where's my reports? AAN. Oh, okay. So actually right now I'm going to add some 74 baseball, 74 Topps baseball. I must have gotten sidetracked last night. All righty. So hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel. Shop my eBay store, 99centcards.com. Tomorrow is the Madison Card Show, Sheraton Hotel, John Nolen Drive, which means, of course, no Hobby Evolution in the morning, but we will go live Sunday morning to recap the show. Reminder, it is just 2 ballrooms tomorrow, upstairs, Capitol Ballroom in the mezzanine, and the downstairs Williamson Ballroom, 135 dealer tables, show hours, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's free admission. Come on out, say hello, buy some cards, have some fun. We'll do it again Sunday morning, probably 8:30 a.m. Central Time. Bronco says he can't wait for Name That Player American Gladiators edition. I'll have to find some American Gladiator cards. Uncle Rich, good luck at your inspection today. Card Hobbyist, have a great weekend. Stay out of the heat. I will see Max. You can see Max tomorrow as well. He'll be upstairs in the Capitol Ballroom selling some Pokemon cards. So come on, see Max. And Sheena. Who else was in the chat that's going to be set up tomorrow? Maybe just those two. So anyway, if I don't see you tomorrow at the Madison Card Show, back here, Hobby Evolution Sunday morning. See you then.